Welcome to the Story Engine Podcast. I'm Kyle Gray, story strategist and mentor to world-changing entrepreneurs. This podcast is more than just an interview. Every week, I work live with 6, 7, and 8-figure experts just like you to craft powerful, stage-ready stories that drive sales, spark movements, and grow authority. If you're ready to turn your message into a high-converting talk, then you've come to the right place. Hello and welcome to the Story Engine Podcast. My name is Kyle Gray, and today on the show we have Karen Salmansohn. She is the author of many different books and an expert on behavioral change. And today we're going to be talking about death and how to use death as a great motivator to live an amazing life. We're going to be exploring Karen's own story and exploration of death and how it's transformed her and now influences most of the work that she does with her clients. So without any further ado, let's hand it over to Karen Salmansohn. Karen Salmansohn, welcome to the Story Engine Podcast.
It's so great to be here. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm excited to introduce you and your brilliance. We've been connecting over the last few months, and you've got some great perspectives. But I'm curious, just to introduce yourself to the audience, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're showing up in the world today?
Sure. Well, I am a leading behavioral change expert and a best-selling author of a couple of books with 2 million books sold. And I'm a research geek, and I write with a lot of philosophical ideas and psychological research, but I merge it with feisty humor. So that's what makes me kind of you-ier. And I create what I call self-help for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing self-help.
I like that. And I imagine there's deep elements of behavioral change. And I think all self-help really is behavioral change. I want to be different and be in
Yes.
some kind of way.
Yeah. And I do think humor, making it feel like you're laughing as you're reading it, helps behavioral change. Like I do think, and the more you simplify things, because if somebody has to read a very dense, complicated book on how to change their lives, they're less likely to do it than if they read one that feels playful and simple. Then they're more excited to change their lives.
So I'm curious, what kind of person doesn't want to get caught doing self-help right now? Like, where are they in the world? How are they showing up? Why don't they? What do they think self-help is? That's gross.
Great. Well, I will tell you that I was doing this for I'm ancient, by the way. I'm 65. So I've been doing this for a while, and back when I first started to do it, it really self-help was different. It's still, I do think there are people that don't want to be caught dead reading self-help, but back when I started to do it, it was really kind of like dirty little secret that I was reading a self-help book. I'd even be embarrassed to go into a bookstore and, can you point me to the self-help section? It was like, oh, and so I would read these books and like rip off the covers, or, just not show up in public with them and hide them when people came over. And then that's when I thought, you know what, there should be self-help for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing self-help, or self-help that you can give to a friend as a gift and they're not going to punch you because it looks kind of cool. Like you're not saying you need some help, person. You're saying, oh, look at this cool book that can help you to view life differently and help you live differently. But I think there are still people in this world that don't think self-help is worth their time. And I think that a lot of them blame outside circumstances, or they think it's like zombifying or toxic positivity. And a lot of self-help could be like that, which is why I wanted to do something differently. It could be a little corny, a little too and no offense to Hallmark because I love Hallmark, but Hallmarky, like a little too just people go like cheerleadery fake. And I don't do that. Like one of my books was called How to Be Happy, Damn It. I admit that there's damn it.
Hmm.
And in many ways, and this gets into a larger conversation, but I'm not about like, being selling happiness. I'm selling like meaningful life fulfillment. I don't think that the point of life is to be 100% happy all the time either. So I don't sell that in my books. Instead of seize the day, I'm more like seize the every other day. Like we can't just be happy. That's not the goal of life. The goal of life is not to be, avoid pain. The goal of life is to learn lessons to grow into your best possible self. So that's sort of my take on self help for people wouldn't be caught dead doing self help, that I'm not about toxic positivity. I'm about something different.
I have a theory in response to this. And I'd like you to search in your own personal experience and then see if it lines up with the rest of the world as well. But I think these kind of people who wouldn't be caught dead, wanting to do any kind of self help or engaging with that, these are very talented, high achieving, high end people, and I think that sometimes the act of even engaging in self help admits that there's a problem or looks towards a problem, and a lot of these people would rather solve their problem by working harder or doing what they know instead of looking in this direction that's painful and uncertain. And these people have probably built their lives avoiding this exact thing, and so they become very great at it. But it's still like it holds them back at a higher level. I'm curious if that holds true to like your past experience and perspective on this, and some of the people that you write to.
Sure, sure. Well, I think I'm influenced a lot by Aristotle and Stoicism and stuff like that. And Aristotle talks about the difference between pleasure and true happiness. And he calls like the true happiness eudaimonia, which is more about fulfillment, and versus pleasure, which is more about, he calls hedonia. And he says that, life is going to have pain and struggles, but you have to learn and grow and stretch yourself. And that he, I kind of rewrite that as a lot of people try to stay, there's the den of pleasure and the laboratory of growth. And people try to stay in the den of pleasure, the easy, and they don't want to go into the lab of growth where they do the work. And so a lot of life is giving you the choice between enjoy now, struggle more later, or struggle a little now, but enjoy a lot more later. And that's part of what I I sort of I write about.
And you think that's the main driver for people who, again, they don't want to be caught uh, engaging in self help.
Yeah, yeah, they want to hang out in the den and they don't want to go into the lab. So,
Hmm. I get that, and I can see that on a lot of levels. I remember talking to some friends when I was younger, and I remember in college hearing them saying like, "I'm excited to be graduated, so I don't have to read a book ever again," or and I think there's like a certain threshold that a lot of business owners hope to get to. That's kind of the success version of that. When I finally have this thing and this thing working for me, then I'll finally be able to do it. But unless you kind of meet yourself in these areas, at least in my experience, the goalpost keeps moving, and yeah, you've got to find your enjoyment of where you are right now.
yeah. I mean, also a lot of people I I are chasing um success and money and wealth and fame and all of those things. And if you do that, when you get to the end of your life, and I wrote about this in one of my books, Live to Die for Life, you're going to feel like you chased the wrong rabbits. So I think a lot of people are chasing the wrong rabbits, because the goal of life is not to become the richest person on the planet, to become the sexiest person on the planet, to have the most YouTube followers on the planet. The goal of life is to learn lessons to help you to grow into your best possible self. That's kind of my overall arching philosophy. And so I like to help people to rethink that, um, to rethink what they think is the meaning and purpose of their life. And then to even narrow focus it more, because the universal is that we're all here to learn lessons, to grow into our highest potential self. So when problems happen, you say, okay, yes, this is a problem, but how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? To have that perspective. But and studies show that when you approach life like that, you will be happier. There's a whole study on emo diversity, which says that people allow themselves to have emotional diversity, allow themselves to feel sad and angry and all of those things at times, but in the right amount, wind up happier than people that who try to be happy every single day, because you have to let that come in and grow who you are. And so, but what I see is a lot of people operating like in beast mode because they're, high productivity, everything on their to-do list. And um and that does not create a meaningful life. I think instead of beast mode, there should be what I call best mode. And you could die crossing off everything on your to-do list and feel like, again, you chase the wrong rabbits. It's more about other things, deeper things, meaningful relationships, meaningful experiences, being a lifelong learner, having that mindset, what's called the growth mindset and everything like that, more than just look at my big paycheck or something like that.
Mhm. um, I think my next step on this path, in like reflecting on my own experience in this, is yeah, like my version of beast mode has become kind of corrupted too, where I think it was a good, useful drive in
Mm,
the early stages of my career, and it helped me learn a lot and get myself into different places. But I find it now is like it actually slows my output, where if I engage in that kind of layer and I'm like, okay, well, I need to get clients, I need to do things, I need to get
mm,
everything done, there's like a different energy that I approach my decisions and my day versus being really happy where I am right now. And of course
mm,
that still means there's work to be done, but um like making decisions from a place of ease and equanimity versus need and intensity. Um, and it's an experience of having both your foot on the brake and the gas while you're
mm,
working, of like pressuring yourself. And it
mm,
makes just the things that you're doing already a little bit harder. And then it's hard to know like when you've done enough or when you're okay to shut down.
mm,
And it like carries over into the rest of the day, where like it's hard to turn it off. And I've found myself even directing like that same thought process towards like, okay, well, now it's the afternoon and it's springtime, and so you better go out and do 6 different things that are really cool to prove that you're a cool and balanced human.
mm,
And it's like this, this drive to be more all of the time that really like saps the very moment, and just learning to appreciate where I am, which I think is kind of in the effort ethos of Ewier,
yeah, yeah.
is like the big frontier right now.
Hmm. Definitely. I agree with everything you said.
So tell me, like you're writing to them. Who are some of the people that you really think about when you're writing these books, and do you consult or do you do any other things for behavioral change? And who are the people that you work with to implement these same things that you're talking about?
Sure. I work with people from all ages. I mean, um, My most recent book, like I said, is called You're to Die for Life, and it's really on the topic of mortality awareness. And I think that thinking about death is a great life hack because it puts a little fire under your tush to be bolder and to be, as I say, you-ier, because um, when we realize that time is finite, that we're here and then we're not, then we realize it's up to us to make that here part as meaningful as possible. And then fear changes, like, oh my God, I'm afraid to, write that book and have a failure, versus, oh my gosh, I'm afraid to getting to my end of my life and not having written that book.
Mm.
Like, it changes. Suddenly that fear is so much bigger than the, oh, what if I fail? It's like, what if I get to my end of life and I didn't do it? And people procrastinate so much on stuff. And I think that death is a way to make sure we don't procrastinate on our life, like keep saying someday, someday, someday. But when you're aware that we don't have, like, a drawer with like 700 bonus years in it somewhere that we could like catch up on all of our some days. I mean,
Mhm.
we would procrastinate if we didn't have death. We would say, you know what, I'll write that novel next millennium. Or, you know what, I'll tell him I love him in 500 years from now. Like, if there wasn't death. But
Mhm.
death gives us that finite uh, part that we're here for just this little bit of time, makes me feel like I am going to be bolder. I am going to be you, or I am going to take more risks. And so I do that a lot within my coaching. I do things like life reviews and chronological mapping. I help people write their eulogies. And you would think at first, when I wrote the book and started talking about it, I thought this is going to be really great for people in midlife because they're already a little bit awake to mortality. They've probably had a parent pass away or some health challenges, something that makes them feel the mortality aspect of life. But I've been shocked that younger people also enjoy this. And I do think it would be great if we made the topic of death normalized, that we can talk about it more, which is why I add in the humor when I help, people to talk about death so they feel more comfortable. Because we will talk about anything these days. We'll talk about guns and, all kinds of politics, but you bring up death and there's suddenly like a hush in the room. So I kind of want to normalize that conversation. And so my clients they definitely are people that are in midlife or going through some change, and they want more push to make the change happen, more motivation. And lately I've also been getting young people in their 20s and 30s. So my guesstimate that people, 45 and up would be most interested in this turned out not to be true. It's just anybody who has like reached the point in their life where they realize what I'm doing isn't working. Help. So that's
Mhm.
sort of my audience.
Okay, so some of the symptoms that we're seeing is like a constant pressure to be in this beast mode in your life, a fear of failure holding
Yeah.
you back from doing what you want. They don't want to get caught doing self help or even admit maybe there's room for growth. They want to be in control because that's what they're used to. But they're going through change and it's hard, and they've reached a point in life where
Mhm.
what I'm doing isn't working. Is there any other symptoms
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
would describe?
Okay. So I would say it this way also. Uh, I am kind of a psychological detective and a blind spot spotter. So when you're in your life, you don't know what you're doing wrong sometimes. And so they're having repeated patterns of pain. And, there's an expression, we repeat what we don't repair, but they don't know why they're repeating it. And what I do is I kind of dig around and I look for what's called in the psychology business as permanent and pervasive beliefs. People that they find themselves saying without even knowing that they're saying it. This always happens to me. I never da 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 da. So they're stuck in a pattern of pain and they don't know why. And I help them to discover what's keeping them stuck in that, their limiting beliefs, where they came from, why. And with chronological mapping in particular, that's where we draw a line on a very long piece of paper, and then we put little dots on the line and near the line that have to do with the inciting incidents in their life, like the best and the worst. And like first fell in love, first had heart trampled on, first job, first time fired, and we kind of look at them and we also see how they connect so they can make peace with it. Like the a zigzag, a bridge, the gift, the assignment. So they can reframe that and see that there's a pattern in their life and try to understand it and learn from it. And that's where they can figure out what their specific life lessons are and the meaning and purpose of their life.
Beautiful. What do you think's different or unique about this process or the process? How do you get people success faster? How do you get people, it sounds like humor maybe was one of the things of like making this accessible to people who don't feel like they want to do it or wouldn't be caught, or how do you get them to where they're going faster or easier or more pleasantly?
Okay, good question. Well, I I have a couple of different psychological systems that I use. I do encourage people to write their eulogy, but for a specific reason. Uh, there's an expression, to begin with the ends in mind. So you have to know what is the ends for your life. And the other thing is some Yogi Berra funny line. He said, if you don't know where you're going, then you don't know if you've gotten there. So I help people to define what their ideal life is, their aspirational life. And we write mission statements for businesses, 5-year plan, but nobody sits down and writes a mission statement for their life. And that's what a eulogy is. And if people come to me and they feel like it's a little bit like creepy crawly to write your eulogy, I have a Mad Libs template that you fill in the blanks and it helps you to figure out what you want your life to be about. And spoiler alert, a lot of the blanks are core values. And this is how I motivate people. So it's a whole system. And I have a lot of, by the way, I have a lot of tools, but you asked for one. So I'm thinking about the core value tool. And I help people write identity based statements based on their core values. And I'll back into it and explain why it works. You want me to back into it, explain why it works and what it is?
Sure.
Okay. If right now your identity is your destiny, who you think you are is what you do. So if you think I'm a sloppy person, you're going to be sloppy. If you think I'm an organized person, you're going to be an organized person. If you think I'm a healthy person, you're going to do the habits of the healthy person. And that's why somebody who doesn't go to the gym and thinks, "Oh, I'm like a couch potato," will have trouble going to the gym. But it's also why once you start to go to the gym, other healthy habits in your life change. Like, oh, now I'm going to the gym. Oh, now I'm going to improve my diet. Oh, now maybe I'll try tennis because their identity changed. So going to the gym helps you to go to the gym. It's also why the expression "the rich get richer," because if you're already rich, ironically, it's easy for you to stay rich because you're thinking, I am a rich person. So I try to get people's identities to change first. Frank Sinatra sang "Doobie Doobie Doo" is a great singer, but he's a backwards thinking personal development coach because it's not doobie doobie do, it's be do. Who you think you are will affect what you do. Your identity is the puppet master of your habits. So I help people. I have 7 core values that I recommend people have because I looked at the top regrets of the dying and I reverse engineered them. And I thought, which core values, if these people had embraced, would help them to prevent the top regrets of the dying? So, for example, People get to the end of their lives and they, oh, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Okay. Well, oddly enough, fun is a core value. And I know people are like surprised. Fun? Yes, that's a core value. You need to prioritize fun in your life. Or I wish I had lived truer to myself. I wish that I had spoken up more. That's being you here. If you're, that's authenticity. So I help people to tap into the core value of authenticity. Then you do, I am core value, and so I do habit. And what happens is when you start to write down core values that you want to be and you're not it, then it creates cognitive dissonance in you. So if you write down, let's say you want stronger relationships with maybe your mom or something. So if you write down, I am a loving person, and so I call my mom every Sunday at 11 a.m. And then Sunday at 11 a.m. comes around, and you're like, oh, I got to do the dishes, or oh, I'm going to go to brunch. And you don't call your mom, but you wrote down, I am a loving person. You look at that, and it creates cognitive dissonance in you if you don't do it. So as soon as you attach a core value that you want to be to it, it increases the odds that you're actually going to live the life that you want. You know, I am a brave person, and so I. And you just kind of, you get like you fall in love with that core value, brave. Yes, I want to be brave. And having the eulogy there also as your aspirational eulogy self, you realize that's who I want to be. I want to be her. You start thinking about future you. And there's all kinds of studies that identity based habits help people to do something far more than without them. And also thinking about future you, there's a lot of studies that thinking about knowing that there's a future you out there depending on you not to be an idiot. You wind up behaving better when you actually think about your future you. So some of these habits together help to, push you along to do things, to get out of the den of pleasure and head into the lab of growth or to start changing your behavior.
Yeah. Um, I'd like to hear about you now and a time, specifically a time and place where you were living out of your values, where you were in constant pressure and beast mode, putting off things that you were afraid of failure, didn't want to be caught in the self help, and yeah, wanted to be in control, but what you were doing in life wasn't working and you needed help.
Sure. Well, I know exactly what happened that woke me up to it is when my dad died.
Hmm.
So when he died, I was I was definitely in beast mode. I was working very hard. And you can kind of trick yourself in beast mode because I was still doing what I love, but I was working way too hard. And I kept saying, someday I'll have a family. Someday I'll have a kid. And when my dad passed, it made me really sad that he never get to see me as a mom, never get to meet my kid because I was working so hard that I was putting off uh, that part of my life. And I realized that I was in beast mode and I wanted to be in best mode. And so my dad's death was like my wake up call. I say death is an excellent alarm clock. And that's when I wrote his eulogy and gave it at the funeral. And then I decided to write mine. And I really started to think more about having a more highly dimensional life and like not, doing more doing more things that were fun on purpose, taking more trips, really prioritizing only dating men that wanted to have kids, start a family. I started to date differently and I've been living that way ever since. It really changed me. It cracked me open, my dad's death.
Where were you specifically when you found out your dad died? How did you find out?
Oh, I was in the hospital. He was sick for a bit and then there was like probably I think it was like a full week, and we kind of knew it was the week, and so we were all gathered around the bed, and we were there with him as a family, and then my mom, the morning that was his last day, came in with an envelope that she had found in his in one of his drawers with something that I had written to him when I was in college by the timestamp on the envelope. We didn't know it was going to be his last day. And she said, Karen, look what I found in Dad's drawer. I opened it up, and it was 2 pages ripped from a book whose name I don't remember the name of the book, and it wasn't on the bottom of the page, so I still don't even know the name of the book. But it was so exactly right to bring to me on the day that he died. And I actually did read it as part of his eulogy. And I can kind of loosely sum it up, and it kind of woke me up too. So I'll tell you that too.
Hmm.
Um, and I slightly remember it, but I'm not going to remember it exactly. But this is the gist. It said, everything that is not given is lost. Read those words again. Everything that is not given is lost. This is a potent wake up call. Every gift, every talent, every skill, every thought, every philosophy, whatever, is lost unless you share it with others. But if you keep these things to yourself, then you're not sharing it. This is the part my memory goes. And it says, but when you share it with others, you create ripples because you pass it on to them, who passes it on to somebody else, who passes it on to somebody else. So if you want to live however it was written, my memory is going. He passed away about 20 years ago. If you want to live your best life, think of the metaphor of a pebble in the ocean. If you have a very little pebble, you'll leave very little ripples. But if you have, like, if you give of yourself freely, you will have many ripples that you'll be leaving into the world. And I just thought that was so beautiful. And I even thought of the ripples that he left behind for me. And some of those were he was an innovative thinker, like a kind of a contrarian. I liked that about him. I kind of feel like that's me. And I kind of just decided I'm going to embrace that even more, to honor my dad. Also, he was very kind. He's like so kind. And I mean, I'd like to hope that I was always kind, but I wanted to embrace that even more. It's like, that's the ripple that he left behind. Thanks to my dad, I'm really aware of that. And that's one of my core values,
Hmm.
which I think it should be everybody's, but who am I to suggest, suggestion, everybody make that your core value too. But,
Yeah.
but, and I just started to think about that. And that also affected me, thinking about, I guess, legacy and what I wanted. And so a lot
So,
of, a lot of my dad's death woke me up.
yeah. And now let's fast forward. You start living within your values, getting clear on your ideal life, becoming you-ier. And there was some part, uh, maybe a couple of months down the way, where things started working and shifting, and you really noticed a difference in this process for you.
Yeah.
When 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 were things like, oh, really starting to turn on, or maybe it was with your son or something like that?
Oh, could you repeat that last question part?
So, like, when did you feel this process really turned things around for you and
Oh,
recognized how far you've come?
oh, okay. Um, well, I wrote my eulogy shortly after I wrote my dad's eulogy, and I that changed me. And I guess having my son just creates a million changes in your life. And my son was born, my dad died on August 27th, and 4 years later my son was born on August 27th, which I thought was kind of cool. It was like a wink from my dad kind of a thing. And I that created a snowball, and just, I guess, having more. I always was, like I said, a risk taker and an innovator, but more about that, spending more time with friends and family, just thinking about. I was researching for my
So,
book.
Karen, let me just redirect you slightly. Not necessarily what you learned or how you progressed, but a
Okay.
specific moment. I'm standing on the beach with my son, and he's 2, and he looks at me, and then I realize, wow, I've really come so far in
Oh,
life.
like a moment where I realized I've come so far.
Yes.
Every freaking day. Every freaking day. My life is so different now. You want a moment. You want one moment. You want
Yes.
one moment. Okay. Oh my gosh, one moment. I guess. it would be, I don't know. I mean, I almost think it's a good sign that I don't have one moment. It just feels like, I guess maybe when my son was born on August 27th and he was handed to me, and and my life was definitely in extreme change mode.
Hmm. Okay, perfect. We can work with that then. Um, would you like to hear your story?
Yeah, sure.
I've been in the hospital for a few days with my father, and he's been getting sicker and things have been getting worse, and I'm feeling like this is the end for us soon. I can remember sitting next to his bed at even passing and thinking, man, I wish he could have seen me have kids. I wish he could have seen me do this. I've been working so hard. I've been trying so hard to create the life that I really want. And all of these other things that I know I want, having kids, having a family, writing books, there were all these someday things. But right now, the urgency of my work needed to take precedent and needed to come forward. But now I'm here and my father's passing, and I start to wonder if I'm really living the way that I want to be living. The day he went, we went back to his house and started looking around and packing up his things. And my mom came in with an envelope that she found in one of his drawers, was something I had written to him in college. 2 pages written from a book that still echo in my mind. Everything that is not given is lost. Every gift, every talent, every skill is lost unless you can share it with others. If you share it with others, you create ripples who pass it on. And I started reflecting if I was hiding gifts and talents, keeping myself safe in some ways, but really ignoring the real possibility of growth. I feel like I've been tricking myself to stay in this beast mode, but it's been wearing me out and it's not taking me where I want to go. And so at the funeral, for the funeral, I write 2 eulogies. The first for my father, everything that he had lived for, everything that he had taught me, everything that he had done. And second, I wrote a eulogy for myself. Not as I was right now, but as I will be at the end of my life. What values, what beauty did I see? How did I live? And started seeing the real possibilities for changing things in my own life. I wanted to get clear on what this ideal life was and have a mission statement that would guide me through it. And I found it in this eulogy. And instead of the morbidity of thinking about my death or fear, I started to experience motivation of wanting to live a great life before it happened. I started changing my identity to be in alignment with these values, to become the person that was doing these things, who would live this eulogy. And over the course of a few years and a lot of costly and painful mistakes, I started making changes in how I worked, in who I dated, in how I treated myself, how I talked to myself. It wasn't always easy, but I knew it was worth it. And one day, exactly 4 years later, on the day my father died, my son was born. And this created a snowball that would propel me forward in so many different ways. And I can remember holding my son in my arms and looking up out the window to the sky at the hospital and saying thank you to my father for everything that he had taught me. And saying thank you to myself, because I could see that I was now giving myself, creating the ripples, and living the life that I really had wanted. And in the next 45 minutes, I'm going to show you my process so that you can come into alignment with your ideal life.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
You're definitely living your ideal life. You're in your sweet spot. That's
I'm
so good.
I'm doing my best to make my own ripples with this show. I felt seen in that quote. But how was the experience of like getting to witness yourself from outside of yourself?
No, it's beautiful. You're really very good at this. Um, yeah, no, and it's funny as you were saying it, I even remembered like some of the things I would talk to him about when I was sitting next to him, and I had a new memory that I forgot about, which I thought because I also love humor and love writing fiction. I didn't do it with him, but I thought this would be almost funny if I did. But you reminded me of something I didn't even think about, where I had this urge. It's a little funny to just, my dad also had towards the end a little bit of dementia,
Yeah.
and to just tell him, and it wouldn't be true. I'm a mom now. I have a son, like a kid.
Oh,
I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
but
But
it's
I
funny.
remembered
I see the humor.
that thought, and I had forgotten that thought. And I remember when I thought that thought, because I love, my first book was a novel, like, oh, that would be kind of interesting if this girl just starts telling her dad. And then, but I didn't do it. But because of what you just said right now, I just remembered that buried memory of sitting next to him being tempted to tell him that I was a mom with a kid. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I
Isn't
forgot all
that
that.
isn't that interesting how we like expect and hope our brains to be able to recall all of these
Right?
things, and there are tons of latent memories buried that
Isn't
if we're
that
just like,
interesting?
what story should I tell, none of these ones come up, that are like we have to kind of sneak around to find them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
But I do see, I mean, I see some great potential even in having that as your inside of your inner dialogue, sitting next to your father's bed. And this is great for, especially with something like you are helping people become familiar with death, which is something people are afraid of, and you are experiencing it in your story. And actually, like, if the moment isn't exactly how it truly happened, but you're standing there and you're thinking, maybe I should just tell him I'm a mom so he can die a little bit happier. No, that's crazy. And just having that
Well,
self joke
you, you
inside
know
of,
what? I'll just take it one step further because I like humor.
mhm,
I remember also what stopped me on some level, because my mind took it to the next level and started to like dark humor, I guess. Because he had some dementia, I thought, I'm going to tell him like, what if I told him I'm a mom with a kid? And then I thought I would leave the room, my mother would go in, and my dad would say to my mother, Karen's a mom with a kid. And then my mother would think, oh my God, the dementia got even worse. She thinks, and I just kind of played that whole, for some reason, that's how my mind goes, I guess, as a writer. But I remember that part too, why I didn't do it, because I thought, oh my God. But yes, so
but
thank you for
it makes it
sparking that.
accessible. Like you're taking
Yeah,
us into this dark moment, and then there's this funny self conversation that happens that takes the weight off of it, and it lives in alignment with the values that you're saying, to like bring some lightness into this moment so that we can relax into the truth of it instead
yeah,
of feeling only the pain of the moment.
yeah. No, it's all interesting. I felt it as you read it.
Thank you. So we're just about at our time today, Karen. It's been so much fun exploring these concepts with you today. Do you have any closing thoughts for us, and where can we go to learn more about you?
Oh, um, well, first of all, thank you, like, very much. This is very interesting experience, and I thank you for giving me a new memory, a buried memory. I love that too. Um, and I could really picture being there with my dad, which makes me like weirdly upset and happy and poignant, and I still miss him.
Yeah.
But um where can people now I have to go into professional mode. Damn you. You can't bring up somebody's dead father and then have them be professional. No, I'm sorry. Um
It usually happens later in the day, so people can have some time to cool off before going
yeah.
back.
But I do love to help people to live their, what I call their Uiest life, brave, Uier, to figure out what's keeping them back. And I do it with humor, and I do it with unusual tools that nobody else is doing because I'm Uier. And because of my dad's contrarian, innovative ripples that he left to me, there, I'll bring it back to my dad. That's how I do my work. And I really do change people's lives. This death is a great kick in the pants. Death creates urgency, and urgency sparks action. And that's why a lot of my tools really do motivate people to, make major changes in their lives. And I love to do the work I do.
Beautiful. Karen Salmansohn, thank you so much for joining us on the Story Engine podcast.